So today it's AI and Finance 101. So what we want to cover today is to help people understand, get the signal away from the noise. What AI is, what AI isn't, help you understand where it fits in with your organizations. We're going to talk a little bit about vocab. There's all these terms that get thrown around. Sometimes people throw them around together, meaning the same thing. But we want to kind of separate out some of that and help you understand what some of those things are and why they're different and why it matters for finance. There's a bunch of alphabet soup running around out there. You see a bunch of automation, and especially if your company is probably being sold to and being told about all these things, and a bunch of these letters are thrown at you. So we want to make sure you understand what that means, so you at least have a good grasp on the basics to be able to move forward. Then we're going to talk about the rise of agentic AI. What does that mean? Where is it at? It's kind of the buzzword now. So if you're looking at anything around automation in the Office of Finance today, or in any parts of your organization and automation with AI, agentic AI gets thrown around. The ERPs are all using it. So we want to talk a little bit about that and what does that mean and what does agentic AI actually do? Then we're going to drive it home for all of you. Where are finance teams seeing that value today in AI and what makes sense? We're going to talk a little bit about building AI at your organization versus buying AI. What are the pros and cons? And then we're going to get you ready for 2026. It's our holiday gift to you as we close out the year here in 2025. We want to make sure you're ready to hit the ground running next year. So to get us ready for today's session as we get moving, we're going to bring up our first poll question. And so Brian on the team is going to throw up a question here. And so our poll question one is really, what is your current level of familiarity with some of the AI terms? And this is, what's an LLM? What are SLMs? What is OCR? We could probably throw in some fake ones in there, and people might even think they're real AI terms. And so, you kind of, what's your familiarity in those today? And so, we're hoping to demystify a couple of these, help them make a little bit more sense for you, and help you move them forward. So far, some folks have kind of heard of these things, and so some good answers coming in. So we'll keep everybody coming. We have a fair number of people who registered for today's sessions and joined, so we want to make sure we give everybody an opportunity to really answer those questions along the way. So give you about another 10, 15 seconds here.
Almost three-quarters of the audience, getting
Yep.
close.
All right. So we have about a minute. We'll go ahead and share out the results. So Nick, any surprises here as we see kind of what's happening?
Well, I guess I'll just top to bottom. We don't really have too many AI experts here who understand these terms very well. We also don't have anyone who said this is all brand new to me. So, in the shape of a bell curve, which represents most things in our universe, most people kind of fall into the middle categories here. A little more than about two-thirds say I've heard of them, but I don't fully understand, which is fine. I'm there with you. And then I'm here today to figure that out. So, kudos for you taking the first step on your journey to learn more about AI.
That's great. So let's go ahead and kick it in and talk about what AI is and what it isn't.
Okay, cool. All right. So this slide is probably the most important one in the deck, and I know it's a lot of words, but I'm gonna net it out. I run into this a lot, and there's basically two different misconceptions people have of artificial intelligence and machine learning in the office of the CFO. First one is, oh my God, this is gonna take my job away. I'm gonna get fired. This is scary. It's the Terminator. It's Skynet. It's gonna kill us all. Take our jobs. Number one, that's not true. It's not going to happen. It's going to transform how we do work, but that's not going to happen. Secondly, it's called the magic lamp theory. I've coined that. It's that all you have to do is just tell AI what you want. You rub the magic lamp, and it's going to provide anything you'd like, whatever your wishes are. It's going to make all your wishes come true, and that's also not true. So AI is not magic. It's not a silver bullet, and it's definitely not something you want to just sprinkle on top of broken processes and hope for a miracle. But what it is really a toolbox. It's made up of statistical language, so language models, language reasoning, being able to understand what those words mean, pattern detection, does this look like this, and automation. And it helps teams operate faster and more precisely. So as we kind of go through this, we want to look for tools that can be trained to work autonomously with limited or without any kind of human involvement. We're not there yet. We're not in the touchless office of the future, the touchless CFO office, the fully self-driving autonomous, but we're going to get there. But I do want to end with one thing, and that certain terms do get used interchangeably, that they seem like they're synonyms for each other, but they're not. So generative AI is not automation. So automation can get things done quickly, but doesn't mean you'll have more insights or, or it can create words and phrases, but it doesn't streamline a process. Automation also does not equal intelligence. It can get things done quickly, but it doesn't mean you have more insight. So Mike, I did a pretty good job of butchering that. Do you want to add some clarity around the
Yeah, I mean,
concept?
I would say, the biggest thing is it sounds like hyperbole, but when we really start talking about what AI can do and kind of as a tool, it's good to think about things like personal computers. It's good to think about things like the internet, like cars, like fire, right? And again, it's one of those things that it's now a tool that enables us to do something differently than we were able to do before. But all throughout human history, it's just that. It's human history. So at no point are we saying humans aren't needed anymore. What it's saying is maybe we're not all buying horses, and now we're going to buy these carriages that don't have horses that we now know as automobiles. And so it's changing the way we're doing things, but it is a tool. And so understanding that those tools, some tools are better built for purpose than others. And so you want to make sure you have the right set of tools in that toolbox to accomplish what you need to do for your office of CFO, and you want to be able to move that forward. So our goal is to really try and kind of help demystify that and give you the right information to be able to move forward.
You just blew my mind right there, Mike, with that analogy with the cars and horses. Like,
I, it keeps evolving fast, and as part of that fast, the vocabulary keeps changing around us. And so we wanted to spend a few minutes just talking about terms, and these terms get thrown around so much, and oh, is it AI? Well, what exactly do you mean by AI, right? So AI essentially the ecosystem of tools that you're going to be able to use to put in your toolbox. AI can perform tasks that require reasoning, pattern recognition, knowledge synthesis at different levels. So we want to be clear there too that we're not talking about a one size fits all. AI is not a thing that does everything for everybody, as we mentioned before. It's not that silver bullet for it. AI is part of what we talk about, and we talk about machine learning. And machine learning is using computer algorithms to learn information about the data that you all produce in finance or throughout your entire organization to predict things, to classify things, or help make decisions on things. And really, what this is trying to be is a force multiplier for your humans. And so, machine learning helps us do things faster and at scale. We've talked about terms before like big data and other things like that, and that's what machine learning does is it helps take large corpuses of data and help understand what's going on, sort it, predict it, and understand where we go from that. Now, one of the things we did with that big data and machine learning is we started to create language models. And language models help us make sense of how we communicate as human beings so that I can generate information, generate, output of information based on natural language prompting. And so there are large language models, and these are huge models that are trained on massive amounts of data. It's kind of like, if you remember the old 80s movie Short Circuit, Johnny Five is sitting there reading through books at this breakneck speed. And that's really what the language models have done here. They've ingested large amounts of data, not physical books, but they've actually done it through data, and they understand how language works and how things moving forward. Now, I'm not sure they understand all the Gen Alpha slang that's out there, but they're probably getting better at it day by day. And it helps us summarize it and move it forward. And so this is the backbone of the tools that most of us are using every day, the GPT tools, those are generative pre-trained transformer tools. Again, not the Autobots and Decepticon flavor, but different types of transformers that are bringing that forward. And so these GPT tools, we're using it every day. It's ChatGPT, it's Claude, it's Copilot. These are the tools that you have within your business in some fashion to help you move forward. And many of us are using them in our personal lives as well. You're asking it to plan trips for you. So that's what a large language model and a GPT can do for you. Now, it's broad, it's wide, it's general, right? So to narrow that down, we now get into small language models. And small language models, or as we have one here at Auditory, we call a specialized reasoning model, helps us get more targeted into a certain area of expertise. And so these are smaller ones that are trained for specific areas and tasks. So finance teams are going to want to find tool sets or build language models that are tuned for finance. And so that helps you be more precise and more efficient. So those driving those analytics that the CFO wants you to bring forward every month or every quarter, the SLMs, the small language models will help you get there. LLMs will get you in the neighborhood. SLMs will get you to the front door. And so it really helps you narrow down that approach of where you're moving.
Mike, can I net it out
Yeah.
for you? Like, just so I can echo back what I heard you say and tell me if I heard this right, if I got this right. So what you're saying is like AI is the overall system. Machine learning is how the systems learn from the data. LLMs are great at understanding and generating language. SLMs are smaller, finance trained models that are more precise and easier to govern. And then there's agentic AI, which
Yeah.
is systems that don't just respond, but they plan, they reason, they take multi-step actions, and they complete the outcomes. I think that's where you're going.
Yeah, the agentic AI is really kind of the wow factor of AI for us in finance these days. And this is it being able to take these large, long tail processes, and because we have rules around them, we have things that we're doing, we're ingesting them. AI can actually work through, reason, troubleshoot, and move through those. And so agentic AI really becomes a digital coworker to be side by side with me to be able to do that work and do that work way faster than I can today. So we're going to get some more into some more examples of what agentic AI can do for us, but that's what it means. And so it's really, if you kind of draw the big Venn diagram of things, right? Machine learning sits as this big open piece of it, and then we start to whittle it down and start the overlapping circles. We kind of get down to where agentic AI is playing in that space. And that's where we're really seeing a lot of value today. So we're gonna talk a little bit about kind of what, kind of the different flavors of automation and how we see value in finance. So Nick, back over to you.
All right. So I guess the point of this slide is that not all automation is created equal. For those of us who are familiar with robotic process automation or RPA, that was the name of the game 10, 12 years ago. And that was the only way that we could get data in and out of systems. If you don't remember how RPA works, I used to think of it like an Excel macro. You record yourself mousing around a screen and clicking on stuff or typing text into boxes, and then you hit save, and then you tell it to do that over and over again. All of us who've used Excel macros remember that, troubleshooting them, trying to figure out why they were broken. That's essentially RPA, logging into your bank and downloading a bank statement once a week. Yeah, you can do that. That's fine. You can teach your RPA to do it over and over again, but there's no intelligence there. It's just mimicking what a human being does. Well, what happens when, US Bank or
UI
Wells Fargo,
changes. Yeah.
yeah, what if they change where the login button is? What if they yeah, what if we change the UX, the user interface on the screen? Well, it breaks because RPA is very brittle. So RPA, rules-based, structured, deterministic, very bad at exceptions, nuance, inconsistent data. It's just literally it's rule-based and brittle. That's the only word I can think of as brittle. Now, autonomous process automation kind of came after RPA. So think about RPA, but with flexibility and some intelligence layered on top, but it's still a rules-based system. If this, then that. It had some more flexibility in branching, but still a rules-based system. And then, of course, the OCR that we all know and love, optical character recognition. When I'm at home, I've got an HP flatbed scanner over here. And that thing is the bane of my existence, not only because the ink cartridges are super expensive and proprietary, but because when I'm trying to scan a document, it doesn't understand the difference between a one and a zero, or a one and a letter L, or an uppercase I, a zero or an O, a five, a dollar sign or an S. So because it doesn't understand the context. And OCR, the flaw it has, and it's had since the 1970s when Xerox invented it at the Palo Alto Research Foundation, the flaw is it looks at characters, not context. So it's helpful, but not for understanding. And it still needs classification and other things. So Mike, with that, we've these tools have moved forward, but they've also exposed limits, which has created the opening for agentic AI.
That's right. Yeah. Now, agentic AI is really one of those things, where, it's really that opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, that digital coworker. My new coworker, we are, I think we've talked a little bit about this at some of our other webinars. We are the last generation of people who will exclusively hire human beings into our organizations. At this point, we are hiring humans and we are hiring digital coworkers, and these are our agents that are going to work alongside us. And agents can do all sorts of things. And so when we talk about finance, what we want to look is finance-based agentic AI that can go through, understand the context of what I'm asking it to do. So it's not just looking at, okay, can I scan this document on my HP scanner? It's look at this document, understand the intent of what this document is, what is noise on this document versus what is the content I need to know on this document. So it helps to learn across those data sources, self-correct when it makes errors, and when the humans say, no, please do it this way. So it can actually work through and help to learn how we do that, take multi-step actions. So it used to be, as Nick mentioned, kind of the process automation was go out, open a web browser, log on to my bank, download this statement, put statement here, right? And now it's done. And that's all it does. That's all it knows to do. But now what I can do is say, okay, once I have my statement in hand, I want you to ingest it here. I want you to manipulate the data here. I want you to do this with it. And then I want you to report or send an output to a different place. And so agentic AI can move that forward. And the best thing about agentic AI, and this is another term we didn't put on the term sheet, but what we call human in the loop. And so this is one where it's important to think about that humans should always be in control of the AI. Again, this is not Skynet becoming online and taking over. This is humans being in control of their AI. And so the humans, when the AI isn't understanding the task or can't complete the task completely, it should raise its hand and go, "Dear human friend, help me out." And so that's really where that opportunity to escalate up when that confidence is low. So it's not just here to extract data, you want to act on it. It doesn't just automate, it completes outcomes. So complete finance workflows. And what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about supplier inquiries from start to finish, no human involvement necessary. AP invoice ingestion from start to finish, complete end to end, all the way through to your ERP, going through your approval steps. So what we're talking about is full automation of complete workflows, which allow our humans to flex up into more strategic level tasks instead of doing those mundane rote tools that are there. So that's where we're seeing a lot of value. So Nick, what are you seeing kind of in the agentic space?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with the use cases you brought out or ones that we see every day. We see touchless processing of invoices, 10, 20, 50 pages that just go into the ERP automatically because they have such a high confidence level. The automation of suppliers, the inquiries, hey, where's my money? Did you get my invoice? When am I going to get paid? Agentic AI can complete that outcome. I mean, it's really, I like what you said there, that it's not just AI doesn't just automate tasks, it completes the outcome for you. So then that therein lies the difference. So I don't think I can add anything else, Mike. Well said.
Yeah, and so really ultimately, and why all of you are here today, I mean, some of you wanted a vocab lesson, probably a little bit of a 101, but how are we going to see it? Make it real for me in the terms of the finance team. So let's talk about where we're seeing AI. So those AP inquiries and invoice processing, we were just kind of talking about those a little bit. To the extent where you can get to touchless automation for these to be able to go from start to finish throughout that entire process and have minimal human involvement. Again, not that the humans are ignorant to the process, but that they don't have to touch it. And so they get to observe it and make sure they can check it, audit it. All of that is there for them. Accounts receivable and cash application. If any of you have a significant receivables balance out there, you understand you're carrying a DSO somewhere around 40 days. You would like that money to be back in your pocket. And guess what? AI can help you automate through that process. And so help automate the dunning process, help automate, escalations where you need to. So agentic AI can work through those processes, understand intents of those emails to be able to help you get your money back in your pocket. Furthermore, there's agentic AI that's now helping with bank reconciliations, cash application, and really moving through that part so not only just AR and cash, but also with treasury as well. Vendor and customer management. There's not, we haven't met any of our customers here at Auditoria who said, you know what, I'm great with my suppliers. I don't need to talk to them anymore. There's not a single person out there who wouldn't want that relationship to be better. Are there additional things and discounts I can take advantage of? What happens if somebody pays me? Am I willing to incentivize them to pay me faster if I can apply that and maybe give them a discount? So I get to manage those. So my humans now have the luxury of doing some of those things that they would have liked to have done that they can't do before. before. Accelerating the month-end close. A lot of people we're now seeing, in our state of AI in the Office of the Finance that we had put out our report recently, we're now seeing the majority of people are in a 5 day or better close. But that brass ring of trying to get to that continuous net close or 0 day close is still out there. And so agentic AI helps us continue to narrow that gap and get closer to basically that kind of 0 day closing that we want to look at. Now, analytics and forecasting. This is really I would say the right on the horizon frontier of where we're at with agentic AI. You being able to use in the same way you can go into your GPT and say, hey, give me a picture of a robot that looks like Arnold Schwartz, looks like Cuba Gooding Jr. from Jerry Maguire. I can now do that with my finance data to actually do that natural inquiry into my finance data to bring back analytics. And so that's going to be a game changer for us. So instead of us turning from finance team into gatherers of data to then do the synthesis, let's use AI to go out and gather the data, do the synthesis, and bring me the report so I can be the interpreter and the storyteller of that data, not the hunter-gatherer of that data. So that's a big piece of it. And then, as we know in finance, we need to make sure our compliance and our audit trail is good in that particular space. So, Siddharth, I saw that you raised your hand. If you don't mind, go ahead and drop that. If you have a question, drop that into the Q&A. And we'll go ahead and pick that up. We don't have this one enabled for kind of participants to speak in this particular piece. So that's where we're seeing some finance value today. And so a lot of different companies that are out there helping you get there. And we'll talk about whether you want to build that or buy that coming up in just a few moments. So Nick, any other value statements that you're
Well,
seeing?
I think if I'm netting out what I hear you saying, it's that where agentic AI really shines is when you have high volume, kind of exception heavy workflows that require some kind of reasoning. With one of the other features that I kind of came across as you're going through this list is it's the stuff that is before the analysis. It's all the loading and the processing of the data and getting all this stuff ready so you can do some like higher level task. And so what it sounds like you're implying here is that all that lower level task management, whether it's moving data around or standardizing, normalizing, importing, exporting, whatever, that can be done by agentic AI. The human beings are now in control of the workflow and the process and the approvals and the things that require judgment and accountability and perhaps even some exception handling. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's a great way to say it, and I think it's the Sisyphean task of rolling the data boulder up the hill to then be able to give it to the guru to figure out. I think those days are gone of that being a human task. And, let the AI bring all the data up to the guru to figure out where you want to go and tell the story, paint the strategy for your organization to be able to drive it forward. So
Mike, what I love is that you were able to synthesize Greek literature, Cuba Gooding Jr., and Short Circuit Johnny Five in the same webcast.
hey, we're not done yet. It's still the beat goes on. So let's talk about our poll question and kind of bring this back to all of you and kind of where you're at in that space. So, as you think about your journey in the AI roadmap, kind of, where are you at? Kind of what would help you feel more confident in being able to move that forward within your organization?
Mm-hmm. All right, so got some great questions coming in, great answers. We've actually never posed this question before. This is the first time I think I've seen this question. So this is a new question for us. It'd be very interesting. I'm seeing the results coming in right now. Very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, this is good.
We got about two-thirds or three-fourths of the people have responded. So we have another
Another
25.
few seconds, maybe. See if anybody else is out there.
Oh, there we go. We
There
got
we go.
8%.
All right, so it's probably good. So we'll go ahead and share out the results to everybody else. So Nick, what do you see here?
I think the number one thing that two-thirds of the people want to see is real-world examples of how agentic AI can transform my function today. ROI calculator is also important, technical explainers, and a timeline also good, but I think people really want to see who else has my problem and how do they solve it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one. A couple of questions, and I think that's kind of, helping to be able to move into here. Some people are talking about, what helps me be more confident in building these roadmaps. Somebody asked the question around how does AI get trained these days, right? And That's a fantastic question because all of us within organizations are going to be very careful about where does my data go to train AI, or does it go somewhere to train AI? So when you're thinking about how you train, how you do your training for AI, this is actually going to move into a little bit of our next topic of conversation here, around kind of our build versus buy. But you're going to need to, AI requires training on data. And so ideally, to make, if you're going to build AI and you want AI to be good for your organization, you can train it on your data. What you're going to unfortunately find, however, is you may not have enough data to make that AI trained effectively. And so what you now see is there are some companies out there who are basically creating sanitized models or sanitized volumes of data for you to basically purchase to train your models. Now, of course, you want to make sure their data is good and what they're doing to do that. But what you really want to make sure you do is think about when you train data, having there's a couple different ways, and we don't want to get too deep into it, but there's supervised and unsupervised training. Unsupervised is basically saying, hey, go eat and go figure it out on your own. You're kind of letting it loose and it's just kind of reading through the dictionary. Supervised machine learning says, all right, I'm going to introduce this set of data and I want you to properly label it. I want you to properly understand it. I want you to properly move through it. And then say, okay, once we're good with that set of data, let me introduce another set of data that's going to expound upon that, or maybe get a little bit deeper, those small language models, for example. And so AI needs to get trained. That supervised learning is going to be a more effective model for targeted specific tasks than unsupervised learning. The other thing too is when organizations are concerned about how their data is being used, what you want to do is make sure your vendors, if you're looking for buying solutions, that your vendors aren't training their models on your data, because your data shouldn't be just used as fodder for them to make better models. You want them to make better models to make your data more effective. And so that's really, when you think about how that moves forward, you don't want your customer data, your employee data, your company data anywhere near somebody else's model in terms to letting it train. So Nick, any other thoughts on training?
Yeah, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I guess the old adage, garbage in, garbage out, also holds true here. You have to make sure that you're aware of the type of data that you're allowing the model to consume, and making sure that you're moving it in the right direction and that it's not having hallucinations.
Yeah. Yeah, and Siddharth, I did see your question. We will get to it here in just a moment, kind of talk specifically about some of the value there. And somebody else did ask about number comparisons and analysis, and we are absolutely getting to that point where it can do kind of all of those different pieces of helping that move in and out, understanding the numbers. We're almost to the point where kind of early part of coming over the horizon of causal AI. So when you want to do number analysis, you want to understand why is that number this? That's the really cool piece that we're starting to see some of those use cases and models getting good at understanding that recursive understanding of the data on the back end to know what went into getting this number to where it is, and how would we potentially be able to model it, scenario modeling, to be able to make it different going forward. So really kind of a cusp of some really cool stuff in the AI space. But let's talk about those models and let's talk about how we get them going. So Nick, why don't you walk us through this whole build versus buy paradigm?
Yeah, I'll try to do it pretty quickly. But the build versus buy question has been around for forever, since anything ever was built or bought. So, and I remember it in the 1990s and the 2000s and 2010s, and here we are with agentic AI, and every IT department wants to say, hey, you know what? I think we could do this ourselves. And every finance department says, yeah, but this other company does this already. And so, the question you have to ask and answer for yourself is, does this make sense? Mike, to use your analogy before about cars and how, the horseless carriage transformed transportation. I drove 14 miles today to get to where I'm at. If I didn't have a car, if I had a horse, or if I was walking, it'd be a half-day journey for me. But the car has transformed my life. Do I build my own cars? No, I buy them. And do I know anybody who builds their own cars? Maybe one person, but no, nobody builds their own cars. They buy it. Why? Because you need the expertise, and you either have the expertise or you don't. You need high quality data to train the models. If you do, you don't. How does is your team set up to know what is high quality data? Or are they doing this every day like companies like Auditoria? Do they have enterprise grade security? We actually come from a security and threat protection background. To that end, we are what's called SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. We take our responsibility to safeguard our customers' data extremely seriously. There's a whole bunch of other stuff on this slides like workflow engines, ongoing tuning and testing, total cost of ownership. But the number one thing, the very bottom, at the end of the day, do you want to have a customer base where you are the only customer? Your IT department built this for you, and you are the only customer using it. There's no upgrades, there's no add-ons, there's no enhancements. Or do you want multiple customers driving product growth and features? I would argue that for innovation's sake, you probably want to look at a company that does this for real. Another imperfect
Yeah.
analogy is, you might want to go to the doctor, go see a specialist, or you might want to call your brother-in-law who watches a lot of medical TV shows. The point is, when it comes down to it, you really want to make the right decision for you, your health, and your financial health. Mike?
Yeah, and I would say the other thing with kind of in that innovation standpoint, I mean, we are at maybe maybe not quite logarithmic, but it feels like logarithmic change and the rate of change of how fast we are innovating in this space. And so with that, your IT department isn't necessarily geared up to be focused only on what is the newest and latest and greatest in AI, and how do we continue to improve a model, and how do we start to use this search. And so that's where you can use the experts, leverage the experts who are actually doing that work out there in the industry to continue to innovate for you. I think that's why a lot of companies have moved into ERPs, cloud-based ERPs that you are getting regular updates. You're always on the same code base. It's not like the old custom ERPs where I'm in a version that's 6 versions back. I'm just barely in support, and so I have to like do this giant project just to be able to take the next iteration so I don't fall out of support. And so, gone are those days. I think people want to maintain a code base and a tech stack that's flexible and nimble and able to continue to take on these new latest and greatest features. And so when you build, you kind of have built that brick, you've painted yourself into that corner, you're married to it because you've invested and sunk so much money into it. And now it's like, okay, now what do we do? And so having been, prior to joining Auditoria, having been on both sides of that, having both built and bought, understanding where are the pros and cons of those. And so with AI, I think your fastest time to value, hands down, is going to be buying it. You are not going to find that same value in a build scenario just because of that long tail, and you have to stand up a capital P project to make it happen instead of, bringing something that's commercially available on the shelf today.
Well said. I think
All right.
the last slide is taking us home.
Yeah, so how do we get ready, Nick? What do we need to do to get ready for 2026 if I'm in finance and I'm looking at AI to get ready for next year?
All right. So I think some tips to keep in mind to get you ready for bringing AI in your team in 26. I would say understand the AI landscape. Your vendors don't want to. They may want to baffle you with BS, but you want to be able to see through the BS. Understand the limits. Know the limits of your solutions. Recognize, and I think we all understand from today, and when we get into the Q&A, I think we can give some more examples. Recognize what agentic AI tools can unlock for your team. We've also learned you can focus on outcomes, not just demos. Have a build versus buy conversation early, get that out of the way, and then start with a high impact, low risk workflow so you can show the ROI as quickly as possible. And if you are unsure, Mike will be happy to tell you about our free AI readiness assessment tool.
Yeah, so one of the things we're doing is if you're in an organization and you're kind of saying, okay, we're finance, we need to transform, we need to move forward, what does that look like? And so, our AI readiness assessments are designed to be a pretty much a technology agnostic approach to understanding where are some opportunities within your finance teams to transform. Now, yes, we work at a software company. We work at a company that does agentic AI for the office of the CFO. However, the goal of this transformation and readiness assessment and the AI strategy and transformation practice that we have here at Auditoria is not just to be a front end shill for software sales. Now, it may be a good opportunity that you may want something like an Auditoria to come into your ecosystem, but you may want something totally different. And so, but have you done that assessment? Have you looked at what's there? Have you looked at what your tech stack is capable of doing and what it could ingest? And so, reach out to me, or we have a on our website. And so when you get this PowerPoint, you'll be able to click on that AI readiness assessment and book some time with us. A couple of hours might be really worth your investment to help you set that roadmap up for where you want to go. Now, if you need something a little bit longer than just a couple of hours for us to have a brief conversation and give you kind of a walk away report, then we can do that too. We can have longer engagements to really help dig in on a strategy and create a roadmap for you where you want to go with AI. But then that's kind of what we have, to offer you as a kind of an action item from today. And I think, we have one more poll question, then we have a couple of really good questions to kind of move forward with. Before we jump into that poll question, we have somebody who has the question, if we have the expertise and we have access to all of that enterprise grade, tool sets, and we have that's there, how are we guaranteeing that solutions will work out of the box without much user involvement? Now, they're talking about our solutions here at Auditoria. Great question. And again, this is what we're talking about here on this screen. Evaluate those use cases based on real outcomes, not shiny demos. Again, you're going to see a lot of slick demos. You may be able to even go onto a website today and try it out, right? And so is that a true use case? What I would say is, ask your vendors that you're considering, or ask if you're going to do it, if you're going to build it. I can't help you with that vendor evaluation because you have to know how good your IT department is. If you think they can build it and actually have confidence that they're going to be able to build that for you, then great. Then that's a valuable option for you to consider. If they aren't, and if they don't know what they're doing, and this will be their first AI implementation, again, caveat emptor, buyer beware. You want to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Now, on a vendor side of thing, that's where you need to drive forward and ask for real ROI, ask for real customer testimonials, see that other customers have done it. And as you're evaluating that process, look at a workshop where you get to use your data as part of that process and see how it looks. See if it's real for you. And so, again, that's your opportunities for you as a customer, if you're buying something, to push for show it to me. Show it with my data. Show it with my information that you can do what you say you're going to do. And hold your vendors accountable for what they're selling you, that you have that with it. So again, a great opportunity. Any other thoughts there for that particular one before we hop into our poll question?
Yeah, actually, I think what might be useful is if I would just kind of walk through a use case, a very basic one, because I think somebody our previous poll question said that people wanted more use cases. How would this affect my life? Well, let me walk you through a use case that we see all the time, and then you tell me whether you think that your IT department can build this. So your supplier, and by the way, you have more than one, maybe you have thousands or tens of thousands. Your supplier sends you an email with an invoice attached and asking the question, when am I getting paid on this invoice? Now, what our system does, what we've trained our agentic AI to do is number one, validate the person. Is this really who they say they are? Or is this some bad actor out of the internet trying to get information they're not allowed to get? Number two, now that we've verified the person is who they say they are they even allowed to receive the information they're asking for? Those are two very dangerous things that you have to get right. You can't get them partially right. So we've spent a lot of time and effort thinking about how do we keep the bad guys out and how do we authorize the people who are good. Third, do I have this information? I use the example of one invoice, but maybe it's 5, 10. Maybe they've attached a CSV spreadsheet that has like 500 invoices in it. Are you set up to do a query and grab that information out of your system of record and paste that into an email to respond back to that supplier within 90 seconds? Maybe, maybe not. Even human beings have a hard time doing that. And let me tell you, although I've just described it very simply and elegantly, there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes to make that happen. Now, if that invoice that's attached to that email has never been seen before, you have to have the logic that says, okay, we've never seen this invoice, so we can't respond to it. Maybe we should ingest this into our ERP system, our system of record, in a way that matches line items and address lines and due dates and payment terms. Maybe there's a PO that's matched this. Maybe there's not. Is your development team staffed in such a way that they could do something called predictive coding? Can they look at the last 5 or 10 invoices and say, based on the last few invoices we've seen, this one should be coded this way? If the answer to all that is yes, and you've got this crack team of expertise and access to enterprise grade level tools, awesome, good on you. Does not change the fact that you will be a customer of one. Your customer base would be equal to 1, not 2, not anymore. So that is a structural thing that cannot be changed. unless you decide your IT department wants to sell that outside the company. I don't see that happening. But the point is, hopefully, I've given you a good example, a very basic example of how agentic AI can process an outcome, but also that there's a lot of things that we've thought through over the last 5 years to make that happen. That's all I had to add, Mike.
Yeah, no, that's great, and it's going to kind of lead us into our a little bit of our poll question. So some of that same kind of flavor of where you're at. So where are you at with AI and finance overall? So kind of what are you thinking about that? And don't worry, Siddharth, I have your question. You're teed up next, so you're up next for us. So
And so Siddharth knows that we're actually live here because there's no way that we could just like
yeah,
pre-record
just
this.
keep talking about his question and not and hold him on
Actually,
to the later
what's funny is
part.
I've looked at the participant list here, Mike, and I see lots of our prospects, let's say a couple of our customers. I even see one of our employees on there. Hello, Jordan. Welcome. All right.
So I got a good participation in this poll question. So creeping up there a little bit.
All right. How do you feel about AI and finance overall? Are you excited? Are you cautiously optimistic? Are you skeptical? Are you still deciding? No one's still deciding, apparently. Okay.
All right,
Got about 80%.
80%.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So yeah, we see a fair number of people are excited for where we're going in this journey, and I think that's it's good to be kind of excited about the opportunities to accelerate to bring the back office forward, and bring you in that space. Now, cautiously optimistic, that is the perfect finance department answer. Like that sounds good, but I want to test it. I need to prove it, right? Show me the rock under the rock under the rock under the rock. That's going to show me where that's at. And that's fair, right? You want to make sure that you're not ingesting some process, some tool, some toolbox that is going to lead you astray and all of a sudden going to take your data in a different direction. And so it's fair. I think it's a really fair spot to be kind of cautiously optimistic that, you know what, I think there's some value here. I think we can do some of this. Maybe not sure how to do it. Maybe not sure I've got the right air cover at my organization, and maybe not even the budget to do it. But there's some good options to do in that space. And then, as in any crowd, there's always going to be somebody who goes, "Yeah, I don't buy it. You can take away my Excel spreadsheet when you pry it out of my cold, dead hands. It's been working for 40 years. It's going to keep working for 40 more." So fair, nobody's asking you to be an early adopter in this space. Just understand if you are on the fence about AI, and again, this isn't intended to be any sort of kind of shaming exercise, but if your organization is on the fence about AI, understand this: your competitors are not. And your competitors are accelerating their processes forward. And so you potentially run the risk of Radio Shacking yourself out of existence. You want to make sure you continue to stay abreast of what's going on, to stay up and ready to go with whomever you're competing with, and make sure you stay relevant in that space, because you don't want to be left to the dustbin of history, if your organization doesn't evolve with the times of what your customers are expecting, your suppliers are expecting, and frankly, your workers are expecting you to evolve in that space. Nick, any other thoughts on the poll?
Yeah, yeah, actually, and thank you for sharing it, everybody. And this it kind of got me thinking about I've seen a lot of changes. You've seen a lot of changes throughout our careers, Mike. I had to explain this to my son the other day because he was talking about all the changes that AI is bringing. And so we've seen a lot of these changes before. Um, for example, the personal computer came into the workplace in the early 1980s. Prior to that, we had something called typing pools, where we'd have literally rooms of people typing at typewriters. Those don't exist anymore. People who learned how to use computers, their jobs weren't eliminated. They found higher level work. They could create without having a typing assistant. Um, Back in the 1990s, we used to have these things called interoffice envelopes. I don't know if you remember these, Mike. Big
Oh,
manila
good old
envelopes
manila envelopes, absolutely.
with a
But
string, and you
boy,
had to
howdy,
put
did
the
they give you a wicked paper cut if
exactly
you
put a
cut
little
your finger
string
on
on
those.
there. You had to put
Yeah.
the to and the from. And guess what? Email replaced that. People who understood how to use and embrace technology, like using email, flourished and thrived. People who didn't. So, but I don't know anybody who said, "I'm not using email. I'm not giving up. You can pry my interoffice envelope out of my cold dead hands." I think AI. I don't want to simplify it or just brush it under the rug. We've seen these changes before that have been seismic, and you know, at the end, it makes businesses more resilient and makes employees more valuable, and it makes people happier. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And Vera, trust me. It's not, we're not AI. We can, if we need to do a little dance or do some music trivia later for you, we can do that. So, all right, as promised, Siddharth has been patiently waiting for halfway through the conversation here. So Nick, let me pose this one to you, and I'll let you answer it, and then we can kind of go from there. So Siddharth is talking about utility providers, right? These guys generate invoices that are just stupid large, right? They want to talk about every single trunk line, every single cable, every single cord that runs through. And so we want to make sure they've got a user wants to read those invoices and understand what it means. And after they do the analysis, they want to post into their ERP. And in this case, Siddharth was asking about Workday. So how does your tool set up to solve that particular requirement for our friends in the utility sector? So do you want to take a swing at that one, Nick, or
I can actually, I can. So when I think about the invoices that are coming in, one of the things we look at are what I would call official documents. What is an official statement that is sent from that supplier to you? What is an official invoice? What's an official remittance form? And there's a lot of things that float around in email boxes, and not all of them are what I would call official documents. What we have trained our smart bots to do would be to look at what are official documents, like an invoice, compare them against what we already have in the system of record within Workday. Um, Determine have we seen this or not, or is it a brand new invoice? And then match that against what we already have in our existing system. The use case you're asking here, I think, has to do with doing some analysis that's outside of the official documents, synthesizing something and writing that back into the ERP. While that is possible, I'd have to get more information about what you're looking for. Maybe it's invoice consolidation or invoice roll-ups. All of that is possible. Our
Mhm.
system, our bots can handle multi-page invoices, multi-document invoices, um, multiple invoices that are in the same document. So a lot of that analysis can take place within our system. I would have to know a little bit more about it, but
Yeah.
I guess I'll net it out by saying our smart bots, our agentic AI is very, very good at understanding what is an official document and what is not, and then matching that to something we already know.
Yeah, no, that's good. And Siddharth actually did a follow on. So what we look at is how does your company ingest those invoices? So Siddharth asked the question around how do you get access to those invoices to be able to bring them in and do the analysis and line items extraction and understand everything that's there. And so we actually ingest those at your point of ingestion from an organization. In most cases, that's email of some flavor. Now, there are some companies that ingest a lot of those invoices through some sort of EDI tool, electronic data ingestion. And so in that case, those would do is kind of load directly in, and then we kind of read back from the ERPs in that instance to have those to be able to compare if something else does come through the ecosystem. And so we work at point of ingestion to be able to pick those up, read them, understand them, and extract the correct information to be able to load it into your ERP for that purpose. And so when you're talking about what is that, what is the analysis that needs to be done, we can have that loaded in. You can look at spend against your POs, spend against your supplier invoicing, whatever the case might be. What we're trying to do and really think about it, the agentic AI is doing something at scale and at speed that your humans aren't able to do today. And so that's really kind of what it's really great at in that space. So I did see another note come through, and I wanted to kind of put that out there. We have one of our auditory customers who's out there who's on the call today, and so appreciate them being here. And they asked, "Hey, can we do this AI assessment too?" I think there's more to get after. The answer is a resounding yes. What we've worked with you on as a customer is not the end game of your finance transformation journey, and we absolutely want to continue to have that conversation. Now, I will tell you though, you asked anonymously. You're going to have to tell us who you are so that we can reach out to you at some point. But yeah, send me an email or get out to that website, and we'll absolutely put that through. Yeah, so start. Again, you continue to ask some great follow-on questions there. It probably is best suited for us to maybe have a quick conversation about this just to kind of help you understand, ask your questions and kind of walk through that process. So we'll definitely reach out to you after today's webinar and kind of, continue that conversation because you're asking the right questions like how are you ingesting it? How does it move through? Where does it sit? Where does it reside? Those are all great questions. And sometimes it's better to see it and then to see it, instead of my robot at a desk over here asking questions and answers. So yeah, so some great questions, and thank you for sending those in. So we do have a couple more minutes. If anybody has some additional any additional questions that are out there, do feel free to send those in. You can either send them through the chat to the hosts and panelists, or you can use the Q&A that's out there. And so we want to make sure we get those questions answered. But again, just as a reminder, as Nick mentioned at the top, we will send you copies of the recording and the slide, as long as you are in fact a real person on our ingestion, and we understand what your email address is as part of that. So I think we are about done with questions coming in. So Nick,
Yeah.
any last words of wisdom from your side of the pond?
Oh, I have no words of wisdom, but I would like to thank everybody for spending at least part of your day with us. Hopefully, you learned something today. As Mike said, we will send out the recording and the slides, and we'll see you next month for our Transformation Tuesday in January. Mike, are we going to do predictions next month? Is that what we're doing?
I think we might get into some predictions. We might even get into a new tool called Smart Research. So
Wow.
stay tuned. We'll be in touch, and we'll let you know. And we'll be out. We'll reach out with email with letting you know what we're going to talk about in January. So hope everybody has a great rest of your 2025. We look forward to seeing you in 2026.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.